All right. So, in the Malaysian context, okay, we are basically, like Commonwealth, part of Commonwealth, because we have been ruled by the British before. So, a lot of our legal systems are pretty much following the UK legal system, which is the English law. Okay, so not the US side. It's pretty much very different. So the lawmakers, who are the lawmakers here? So in the state, we've got state assembly, and from there they will pass different they're called statutes and all that, and in parliamentary, so that means, like every election, state will choose their state assemblyman to represent different areas, and these people will argue about things in the DUN, okay, Dewan Undangan Negeri, and this is the same all across different states, okay. So they will argue about it, and they will pass what we call the state law, okay. So there are certain things that is under the state law, like native land, and also um, planning law and all that. So there is a few things that is pretty much controlled by the state, like mostly customary law, like things that are more related to the state are being passed down from the state, okay, so under the state government. Then after that, we have got the whole Malaysian government, which is what we call the federal government, and every election we will choose what we call the parliamentarian. So these people will be the one that will actually go to the parliament. Like Kuching, you have one parliamentarian, and then you've got like there's a few, like different areas. It's much bigger, of course. Okay, so like there's about how many seats, I think, from Sarawak, if I'm not, it's a whole Sarawak add up together. You've got a few seats, I think. I don't remember, they change sometimes. Is it 8 or more? I think it should be more, 11 or 12 or 15. We just have to find out, okay. Then after that, these people are chosen by the people to represent them in the parliament. So parliament, when you are passing the law in parliament, they argue about certain things, and they argue about certain systems, they argue about different rules and regulations, so that these are all what we call uh, a parliamentarian system. So this one here, they will pass acts, you see, acts, and they will do they will put it down on papers, and when it's passed and signed by the Agong later on, these are law of Malaysia. And of course, there are other parts that will also govern the legal system, is the case laws. Case laws are actually things that has happened before the judges give a decision, and then they will they will they will actually make then the future judges will make a judgment, according to the case laws, okay. So of course, you also refer to the acts, the statutes, the case laws. These are a few areas that where our law systems come from. So there's civil laws, which is dealing with monetary issue, economics issue, those non-life and death issues that is under civil law. And you've got the criminal acts, such as don't throw rubbish, it's as minimum as that, and then all the way to don't rob, don't kill, these are the things that will actually be under the criminal laws. And you've got commercial law, you've got land laws, you've got the legal systems is quite comprehensive. Of course, as a country, like Malaysia, our systems is already pretty developed. Okay, these notes that I'm showing you here is actually belonging. Okay, I will give credit to the universities that give these notes. Is actually Wawasan universities. I've been invited to give lectures on their legal systems and construction law, and these are the notes that they've given me, and I thought they are so complete and so well written. So why not I share with my own students? I think they are better than my own notes. My own notes is a bit more brief, and these are a lot more detailed as well. So I will pass you these notes and put it on Ellipse, and I think when you go through these notes, you will really understand what we've been trying to talk about, for the past for these particular lectures. I mean, legal systems and construction laws are not so simple. There's a lot of things that you need to understand as well, and of course you're not a trained lawyer, so and the legal wordings and all that is a bit difficult, but you have to deal with it because you need to administer a contract. So the word contract is an agreement, it's a meeting of mind. So all engineers deal with contract because we enter into a contract with our client, and or the client enter into a contract with you as a service provider, a contractor. So what do you mean by enter into a contract? It means that you've already meet the minds of each other, you understand what each other want, and then you put it into words, and then you put it into an agreement. Is agreeing on what you are going to deliver and what you're going to give me in return, you see. So is the foundation of engineering project. It's about people giving services, it's about you being paid, and it's about people paying, and for certain services that you're going to get, or certain product that you're going to get at the end of a project, you see. So every engineering contract is very valid to say that every engineering project is a contract. So project, contract is actually together, is you cannot run away from one another. So if you want to manage a project, you must have a valid contract. So the idea of a valid contract is actually very critical when we are forming a contract. So by forming a contract, it's not about just sitting down here and you talk about, let me do this for you like this, and then you're gonna pay me like 10,000. Okay, can it's set up, then I'll come to work tomorrow. So these are actually very very kuno kind of way. People don't do it like that anymore. Yes, even though we recognize verbal contract, but it must be set in a proper environment. So we cannot just simply say, and then and then you go to court, and then there's no legality to it. Okay, it's not within the Malaysian legal system. So the Contract Act 1950 defines a contract as an agreement that is enforceable by law. Even a verbal contract, it must be enforceable by law. If it's not enforceable by law, then there's no contract. So then can you imagine you finishing a job and then you're not being paid, and then there's no contract, you're being cheated, there's no contract, there's no legal contract. A lot of time the word being cheated is because there's no legal contract at the end of the day. There's no intention to create that legal relationship. There's lack of that element of legally enforceable. So you must make sure that every project you enter into is an agreement that is enforceable by law, so that it is protecting the both parties that is involved in the contract. So like I say, why you engineers need to know all this? Because you need to know that you will be the one forming the contract, you see. Then when you're forming the contract, you need to understand that the aspects that goes into to properly form a contract. So we do not want you to form a contract. You cannot go to a lawyer every time to form a contract. It's actually okay under the legal law of Malaysia, under the Contract Act. It's actually, you can actually form a contract on your own, with the other party that is enforceable. But the elements of contract must be all there. So for it to be completely valid, it must be a valid contract. Can you imagine? You don't have a valid contract. That is very scary. And after doing so many things, actually you don't have a valid contract. Okay, so then what we need to do is, so you need to understand what is the definition of a contract. So here there's a few definitions by the Contract Act. It's a promise, it's a set of promise that is formed in consideration of each other, and then it's a legally binding agreement between two parties. It actually, definition emphasized on contract must be intended, it must be legally enforceable. So these are but not every agreement is a contract. So therefore you must really have that you really must have that sense of validity and also sense of enforceability. Okay,